Hello friends, welcome to our channel Knowledge Amplifier. So today in this particular video, we are going to explore how we can trigger AWS batch job in event driven manner. Okay. So for example, suppose in our S3 location, some file is getting landed and our batch job should read that particular CSV file and ingest that data in DynamoDB table. Okay. So this is a proper event driven use case, and to implement this, we obviously need help of AWS Lambda. Already in my previous video, we have encountered or solved this kind of use case for Glue. For example, here we are having a Spark code. Here in S3, some file is getting landed and we want to process this particular S3 file in PySpark. That time we put Lambda in middle. The Lambda gets triggered by S3 and Lambda pass those S3 bucket information, S3 key, that is the file names, as argument to this particular Glue job, and from that argument the Glue read those files and then process it, right? That same pattern we are going to follow here. That here we are having S3. From S3 we'll be setting up S3 event notification to the Lambda, and that way whenever in S3 some file will be landed, Lambda will be getting triggered and Lambda will pass those S3 bucket name and file names as argument to our Python code, which is going to run in our batch. Okay, and batch is going to use Fargate, that is serverless compute platform, to read that particular S3 file and then ingest in DynamoDB. Okay, so this is our data pipeline, what we are going to implement in this video. And what this particular part is showing is basically, here suppose we are there as developer. Whenever we want to run something in batch, it should be a Docker image. So that Docker image along with the requirements.txt Python file we are going to create in our EC2. So here in this particular demo, I am going to use EC2 because I don't have Docker installed in my local machine. So I cannot create the Docker image locally. Instead of that, I am going to use EC2, where first I am going to install Docker and then going to build that particular image. And that image we are going to push in ECR, and from that ECR we will launch our batch job. Right, based on that particular image configuration, we'll be creating the job definition, and based on that our job will run. So this is the flow what we are going to implement in this particular section. So without any further delay, I will quickly jump into the implementation part. So I'll delete all these drawings, and now here I'm going to Notepad where I have written all these steps. The same Notepad file I'll be providing in the description box or in the comment section, so that you can download the same code base from there and parallelly practice along with this video. Okay. So here first we need one S3 location where the files will be getting landed. So here first let me go to S3 and show you. Already I have created a bucket for this demo. And here we are having this bucket which is currently in North Virginia region. Currently it is empty, you can see. And we need one more thing, that is DynamoDB table. So that particular DynamoDB table also I have created. Let me show you that. So here I'll go to tables, and here our ID's dataset is available. Currently here if you see explore table items, here currently no item is available. Okay. And for this particular table, the ID column or ID key is the partition key or primary key. Okay. So when we will insert the data from S3 to DynamoDB, we need to make sure that ID column is primary key in that S3 files. Okay. Right. So that is done. And now as part of the next step, what we have written here, the process to install Docker in our EC2 machine. Okay. So here I will quickly do that. So here I will search for EC2, and here I will open EC2 in a new window, and I'll go to instance running, and here I'll click on launch instance. So here Lambda Fargate demo YT, some name I have given. The Amazon Linux, I'll choose the second AMI, and keeping the key pair one existing value, I am going to launch the instance without changing other properties. Okay. So here if you observe, our instance is in currently pending state, and for this particular instance we need to update one property, and that is we are going to build our Docker image in EC2. Okay, and from there we are going to push in a ECR repository. So the EC2 should have proper access or proper IAM policy to do that push activity to ECR, right? So for that EC2 ECR role I have already created in my previous video. I'll just simply add that one. Okay. So I will choose this one. I'll go to instance state, action, and then here I'll go to security, modify IAM role, and here I will search for ECR, and here this is the role which I already created in my previous video. That one I am attaching. Okay, with this our EC2 machine is ready. Now here we can do SSH. So here in putty I am going to paste the public IP of my EC2 machine, and I am going to choose the key pair file whatever I have already downloaded, and then here I'll click on yes and log in as EC2 user. Okay, so here we are successfully able to log in, and now here I will quickly execute all these steps whatever I have explained in my previous video also to install Docker in it and to start the Docker service. So here in this particular line we have installed Docker, and now we are going to start our Docker service. So to install Docker it is going to take few seconds. Let's wait for that. So here it is installed. Now here we can start it, and here I will give this particular permission also as we discussed earlier. And now what I need to do, I need to close this putty so that all permissions will be updated, and I will open putty again as a fresh window. Okay, I'll provide the host name and I will choose the key pair file and log in as EC2 user. So up to this it is done, and now here what we are going to do, we are going to create a directory and going to that particular directory where all our codes related to this particular demo will be putting. So as a first step, if you see, we need obviously a requirements.txt file for that Docker image build, and here if you consider our batch job, it is just going to read the data from S3 and write in DynamoDB currently. Only this much it is doing. So Boto3 itself is sufficient, right? So here I will just create my requirements.txt file with Boto3. I'll paste write and quit, and then here our Dockerfile we are going to create. So let's go through this Dockerfile once. So first we are choosing a Python base image, then we are configuring our working directory within Docker environment as /app, then we are copying everything from our current working directory to the app folder, and then we are basically executing pip install requirements.txt command to install all the external Python dependencies in our Docker environment. And then as part of the next step, we are just putting a dummy command cmd echo hello. Basically it is going to print hello whenever we are going to launch our container. Now you might think why I am doing so, because here this particular batch job should ideally read the data from S3 and then write in DynamoDB. So it should be a Python code, and that Python code should be taking the argument that what key to process, what key came newly, or what S3 object got created newly, that it should be taking from Lambda, right? So that kind of code we should be putting in command, but rather we are putting a dummy command. Why it is so? The reason is whenever we are creating a Docker file, that command we cannot change again, right? Think like this way. But in this particular use case, whenever new files will be getting landed, that alone the Lambda should pass to the batch, and the batch job should only read those files to insert in DynamoDB, right? So we don't know the file names or whatever key is going to be generated or whatever object is going to be landed in S3, right? So that's why here I cannot put any proper Python code, but rather what we are going to do, we can just put a dummy command to create our job definition in AWS Batch, and then when submitting that particular job in AWS Batch from Lambda, we can override this particular last command, that functionality or that power AWS Batch provides us. So that I am going to show you, no need to worry, just bear with me for a few minutes. So here what I am going to do, I am first going to create a Docker file. I'll go to insert mode, and then here I will paste this particular code. Okay. Here I will just put echo comma hello, and then here I will do write and quit, and that is also done. Now here our scripts.py file is there, which is basically going to run in Fargate. Okay. So here what we are doing, we are importing all the necessary things, and here is our main function, which is going to take the bucket and key. These inputs will be coming from Lambda, right? Whenever a file will be landed in S3, what is the bucket name, what is the file name, that the Lambda is going to send to this batch job. Okay. And in the main function, we are reading that. And then as a first step, we are going to create the Boto3 client for S3. Our bucket is in US East 1. So we are providing that region name, and here access key secret key we no need to provide, because in that batch environment, whatever role we will be assigning to this job, that will be having that S3 access. Okay. and after reading the data from S3, it need to write that data in DynamoDB. So DynamoDB resource in AWS EC2 I am creating, and then here first it is reading that particular CSV file content based on the bucket name and the key value, and here we are defining our table. Already we have created iris dataset table, and then here row by row we are iterating. We are extracting the information. So basically our CSV file is having the iris dataset data, that is ID, sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and class name. And after extracting those, here I am basically executing put item command to insert the data in DynamoDB. And once this particular for loop is executed successfully, outside that I am printing CSV file ingested successfully or CSV file processed successfully. Okay. And here we are calling our main function. First, we are checking that the length of the system argument should be 3. First should be the Python script.py, next should be the bucket name, and next should be the key or the folder structure where our S3 file got landed. And this bucket name and the key name should be coming from Lambda. Okay. So our batch job will fail if it is not able to find out 3 arguments. Okay. Right. And then here, if it is properly given these arguments, then it is taking that bucket name as second argument and the key name as the third argument, because the array index starts from 0. The Python script.py is basically our first argument, so we can ignore that. Now we have extracted the bucket and key, and we are just calling our main function, okay, which is basically reading the data from S3 and writing in DynamoDB. So we will quickly execute or create this particular file, vi script.py. I will go to insert mode, and then here I will copy this complete code and I will paste this here. Okay. Right. So this step is also done, and now as part of the next step we are going to create Dockerfile out of it. So for that I'll go to ECR in a new AWS management console. So here I am having Elastic Container Registry, and here I am going to create a fresh repository, demo yt lambda fargate. Okay. And then here I'll create this repository. So here this is the one. Now here I will basically click on view push command, and here it is going to give me all the push commands. So first we need to do ECR login, and it will able to do that because EC2 is having that proper role configured. Now here we are going to build our Docker image. Okay. And why our Docker image will be built? Because already we have created a Docker file in this particular directory, right? So that's why we will be able to execute this Docker build command, and once that is done, here we will do proper tagging, and then we will execute Docker push command to push the Docker image from this EC2 to our ECR. Okay. You might get some warnings, you can ignore that. Now here I am doing a tagging, and then as part of the next step I am basically executing Docker push command. Okay. So here our Docker push command is executed successfully. I can close this one, and if I refresh this particular repository, here you can see one image got created latest. Okay. Now here as part of the next step, what we are going to do, we are going to create our batch compute environment, where basically we are going to use Fargate to run our job in serverless manner. So I'll click on create, and here demo yt batch lambda service role, let it be, I am choosing Fargate, and maximum vCPU 4 is fine. Use Fargate spot capacity, I want to use that, not a problem. VPC subnet security group I am keeping default, and here I am clicking on create compute environment. Okay. So with this our compute environment is ready. Now as part of the next step, as we know that we need to create the job queue. Okay. Again Fargate demo yt lambda batch. Okay. Priority 1 and scheduling policy not needed. Compute environment I am connecting this one for just now I have created, and I am creating this job queue. The job queue is also enabled. Now as part of the next step, we need to create the job definition. So I will click on create. Again Fargate I am choosing, and now here we need to put properly the values. So the name I can put demo yt job run Fargate lambda batch, some name I have given. And then execution timeout, here I can provide that 300 second. The scheduling priority 1, let it be Fargate latest, The runtime Linux, that is fine. Assign public IP. Yes, I want to assign public IP because the job definition should able to pull that ECR image. So that time it need internet connectivity. If your VPC is private VPC, then you have to configure NAT gateway so that it will able to pull that particular ECR image. Okay, right? Now execution role. So for this particular discussion, I am going to quickly create a role. So I am going to IAM and then here I'll go to roles and I'll click on create role, and here I will search for Elastic Container Service, and for ECS task I am going to create the role. Basically batch is also nothing but backend is supported by ECS. Whatever batch job we are submitting, that is nothing but a ECS task, right? So here I will search for ECS, and here I need to provide this particular one, ECS task execution policy. And then apart from that, this particular job need to have access to S3. So S3 full access I am providing, and DynamoDB full access also because it is going to write the data in DynamoDB. Okay, and the role name I am putting that same whatever our job name is having, and then here I'll click on create role. So here our role is created. Now I can go back, I can refresh this one, and I can search my role, just now what I have created, and that is this one. Job attempt, I am choosing one only, and I am clicking on next. Now here image URL I need to provide. So for that I will go to ECR, and here is the URL. I'll paste that here, and then comment. As of now I am putting hello world because this is the job definition. While launching the job using this job definition, that time we can update this comment. I'll show you, no need to worry. And then here job role I am going to put that same one, whatever we just now created, vCPU and memory configuration, fine. And then I am clicking on next, and here I will click on create job. Okay, so here our job is created. Now let's test this particular job once before triggering it from Lambda. So what I will do, I will go to jobs, and then here I will click on submit a new job, and I'll provide that name as demo YT Lambda Fargate. And job definition, here I will choose my job definition, whatever I have created. Job key also I'll choose that same, and then I'll click on next. Job attempts 1, execution timeout, let it be. And now here you can see you are getting an option of comment. Okay, so here while creating the job definition or while creating the Docker image, we have basically provided a dummy comment, echo hello or echo hello world, something like that. But now here when we are launching the job, that time the AWS Batch is providing us the facility to put that comment what we want to run. Okay, so let us test it first. So our comment should be what? Our comment should be Python, and then comma, our Python file name is scripts.py. Okay, and then comma, here we should be putting our S3 bucket, and then we should be putting the key. Okay, so this kind of command basically we are going to execute here. So for that, in this S3 location I need to put some files. So let me upload some sample file here. So here I am having a sample file setosa1. So I'll just drag and drop that, and here I'll upload this. Okay, so let's test it out first without Lambda. So the bucket name should be this one. I'll put that here, and the file name should be this one. Okay, so this should be our comment, what ideally should be submitted by Lambda, the bucket name and the key. Now we are just for testing purpose, we are pasting this like this. Okay, command is done, vCPU memory, that is fine. And now here I will click on create job. Okay, job is going to run soon, and till then I will go to DynamoDB. I'll click on explore table items. Currently here if I refresh here, you can see that currently no item is available. Let's wait for a few seconds till the job becomes successful, and then we'll see whether in DynamoDB it is successfully able to ingest the data after reading it from S3 or not. Okay, so let's wait for a few seconds. So here it is currently in starting phase, and now the state is changed to running. You can hope that we'll get no error. And here you can see our job is succeeded. So let's go to our DynamoDB and let's refresh. And here you can see that Setosa data, it has successfully able to read from S3 and it has ingested in DynamoDB. Okay, so our code is properly working. Now what I will do this cleanup. This is just I have done for testing purpose whether batch job is running or not. Later we'll test using Lambda directly. So I'm just clearing up this environment. I'll delete all these items from DynamoDB also. Now currently in our DynamoDB there is no item, and here in our S3 also currently no data is there. Now let's configure our Lambda code. Okay, so what this Lambda code is going to do, it is going to do that activity exactly what we have done just now manually. Okay, so here this is our Lambda function. First we are doing all the necessary imports, and here our Lambda handler is there. First here we are printing that event whatever S3 is triggering, and then here S3 bucket and S3 key we are extracting from that JSON key value pair. On this I have discussed already multiple times in my previous videos. And now here job definition name we need to provide. Okay, currently I have kept empty because here I will share you this generalized code. Just you can replace the value here and you can use in your purpose. The queue name whatever we have created that we need to put, and then Python script S3 bucket S3 key whatever it has got from this particular informations. Based on that it is creating the command what we want to submit. Okay, and then first it is creating the Boto3 client for our batch job, and it is executing a submit job command. The job name it is providing, the job name is nothing but like this way. Let me just show you. It is just like here in AWS batch. I'll just choose my job queue. This is the job name, right? We have configured. So that particular job name here we need to provide. The job queue name here we have already configured. The job definition we need to provide based on that ECR image whatever we have created. And then here container override. Okay, based on this we can override the command. By default here we have just given echo hello world or echo hello something like that, but actually we want to run this particular command, right? Python script.py and then S3 bucket and then S3 key, but it should not be a string, it should be a list. Python should be one element, then scripts.py should be another element, S3 bucket should be another element, and S3 key should be another element. So I am splitting based on space. Okay, and then retry strategy attempt 1 because only one time we want to retry, right? And then here we are printing the response whatever we are getting from this particular batch job client. Okay, and we are returning AWS batch job submitted successfully. So this is our very simple Lambda code. Without any further delay I'll quickly create that. So for that here I need to open AWS management console, and then here I will open Lambda in a new tab, and I'll click on create function, and function name demo yt lambda batch Fargate. Okay, and then Python environment I can choose 3.12. I'll click on create function. I don't need to create any Lambda layer or something like that because here all we are going to use is Boto3, and Boto3 is available by default in our Lambda execution environment, so no need external modules. Okay, so here this is our code. I'll update this particular code now. Okay, places we have to update job definition. So job definition name we need to provide. So here if you see that I can go to my batch, and this is the job definition what we have created, right? So I'll put that here. Then job queue. What is the job queue we have created? Let's check. This is the job queue. So I'll choose that. Okay, and based on that the command will be created executing this command, that is fine. And the job name is trigger from Lambda. Okay, so this particular job name should be coming when the Lambda will be triggering AWS batch job. Currently here you can see we are having only one job within this job queue which we ran just few minutes ago, and next time all the jobs should be having trigger from Lambda name. Okay, and then rest part is looking good. Without any further changes I'll quickly click on deploy. Okay, so that way our Lambda function will be deployed. And here the job is not yet done. Here we need to update the timeout to avoid any unnecessary timeout issue, and I need to save this one. And apart from that I need to update the permission also. This Lambda is going to launch a batch job, so that batch submit power this Lambda should be having. So I'll click on attach policy, and here I am going to search batch, and currently I am providing batch full access, but you can fine tune the access for your production system, not a problem. Okay, and I'll click on add permission, right? And with this our Lambda is getting the permission for batch job full access. I can close this window, right? EC2 is not needed now. I can close that EC2 window. ECR image not needed now. I can close that ECR window. This particular job queue window is also not needed. To avoid confusion I am just closing those. So here one should be our S3 location where when file will be landed, that time the Lambda should be getting triggered and it should launch a batch job here, and then the batch job should ingest that particular data in our DynamoDB. Okay, so let's refresh, and currently here if you see, currently no data is there in DynamoDB. All we need to do, we need to trigger for S3 in this Lambda, and then we can see whether it is running properly or not. So this is the bucket name. So here I will choose my bucket, all object create event, that is fine. I'll acknowledge this and I'll click on add. Right? So with this, our Lambda trigger is also ready. Now we are all set to implement our first experiment end to end. All we will do, we will simply drag and drop a file. Okay, and now here I will click on upload. So here it is uploaded. Now ideally it should trigger our Lambda. Let's check in the monitor section whether Lambda is getting triggered or not based on S3 event. So here you can see currently it is 7:31 p.m. At 7:30 one logs it has printed. Okay, and here you can see the complete logs executing this particular command, Python script, and the bucket name and the CSV file, whatever it was landed. Okay, and here it is basically showing the response after submitting the job in batch. So let's see if I refresh this particular one. Here you can see currently a job is in running state, trigger from Lambda. Okay, so here due to some reason trigger from part is coming, but trigger from Lambda is not coming. Let's see. So there we have written trigger from, should be trigger from Lambda. That is not a problem, but I hope you are getting the point that here this batch job launched by Lambda. Okay, now here it already got succeeded, but before showing you the DynamoDB, let me show you one important property, that while creating the Docker image, we basically give a simple dummy command, echo hello world or echo hello something like that. But when the job is launched from Lambda, that time what it is giving in the container section, here observe the command Python script, bucket name and the file name. So this power we are basically getting from submit job and container override. Okay, so job definition we can create is using any command. That can be a dummy command also, not a problem. Okay, you create your Docker image properly, but just command part you can put some dummy value, and using what system you are launching your job, that can be Airflow, that can be Lambda or any other scheduler, there you just use this container override property to run any Python code. Okay, right? And now let's check our DynamoDB whether data is successfully ingested or not. And here you can see our IDs Setosa dataset successfully ingested. Currently we are having 27 rows. Now we'll run this particular same experiment for some other IDs dataset category. For example, Virginica, if you consider this particular CSV file. Let me show you that. So here if you observe, this is our Virginica CSV file, which is having ID sepal and sepal with petal and petal with and class name. The class name is having IDs Virginica, and currently in our DynamoDB here if you see, only ID Setosa is available. And now let's experiment whether it is triggering and ingesting this Virginica file properly or not. We have just uploaded this data, and now here we can go to CloudWatch to check whether Lambda got triggered or not. And here you can see just now at 7:33 p.m. one Lambda is triggered and it is showing no error. Let's go to our batch. I'll go to the job section. I'll choose my queue, and here you can see the trigger from this particular part is coming. Okay, maybe I have not written the trigger from Lambda properly, or might be it is not deployed properly, but that is different thing. I hope you are getting the point that the job is triggered. And now if you go to container, here you can see the code has automatically taken that particular file name only in the argument what just now we have uploaded in S3, that is virginica.csv. And basically Lambda using container override property is sending this particular command. And here if you observe our batch job, here using sys.rv, we are capturing the bucket names, we are capturing the key name or file name, and then based on that we are reading that data in the main function from S3 and we are inserting in DynamoDB, right? So that's how in event driven manner our batch job is running, and this particular architecture is totally serverless because the batch compute environment is Fargate, right? That itself is serverless. So using this way in an event driven manner, you can run your ETL pipeline if it is having more than 15-minute span of execution. Okay, because if it is less than 15 minutes, then still you can execute that same ETL pipeline in Lambda. But to avoid 15-minute timeout issue for your ETL pipeline, you can opt for batch, but still you can keep your whole pipeline serverless and event driven using this particular architecture. Okay, So let's see whether our job is completed or not. And yeah, this job is also succeeded, what just now we launched. And now if I refresh our DynamoDB table, I should be able to see the Virginica data also. First, I will sort based on class name. Initially, we are getting Setusa data, and now here you can see the Virginica data is also available. If I go to the next page, here also Virginica data is available. So this way, in real time, from S3, the data is getting ingested in DynamoDB based on the batch job, right? So I hope you understood this. All the codes I'll be providing in the description box or in the comment section. Try to do this experiment. You will get better idea out of it when you will try to play with this particular architecture or do real hands-on. If you have any doubt in any part of this video, you just mention the timestamp and your doubt in the comment section. I will try to reply back ASAP. With this, I am closing today's discussion. If you find this video helpful, then please like, share and comment. Subscribe our channel if you have not subscribed till now. And don't forget to press the bell icon to get the notification of our latest videos. Thank you for watching.